Your Honor, excuse me. And I know I said this previously. Yes, sir. But we are not accepting any proffer from Ms.
Okay,
Law.
excuse me.
Okay. All right.
Wow, wasn't she rude, guys? I mean, just kind of Debo the podium from Mr. Brian Steele, Young Thug's attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I am disturbed by Mr. Steele's representations to the court. The court has inquired. We have no way of knowing what it is or who it was that disclosed information that was contained within an ex parte conversation. Not only was there an ex parte communication between that we requested as a state to be on record with the court, but there was communication made, I believe, to a person and his lawyer. I don't know that the reason that counsels took the podium was to address that particular issue so much as it was to try and assert an inaccurate, what he calls fact, and put it out there in the open as if it were true. But we certainly have the right to request ex parte communications. That's why we ask that the court reporter be present. This is a matter that the defendants did not have a right to be a part of, as this was a matter regarding a civil contempt that the court imposed upon a person for not obeying the court's directive. The state read the case that Mr. Steele cited. It does not stand for the proposition he asserts that it does. And regarding further legal support for our position, we would provide that to the court, but we are more concerned that information that is disclosed in an ex parte setting gets relayed to the parties who are not privy to that. The whole purpose of the ex parte request was so that that did not happen.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and her team, together with a Fulton County judge, have just been caught in the act, guys. Now, many people speculate that the judge in the Young Thug RICO trial is biased. This is because he chose to have an ex parte conversation with the prosecution team without the defense's knowledge. Now, for anybody who might not be aware, the prosecution's team comes from the district attorney's office, a team that has repeatedly shouted at the judge but has faced 0 jail time. Unbelievable. Quick shout out and thank you to Guadalupe Rubino for the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. God bless. Right, guys? Now, meanwhile, the defense attorney who was told of this secret meeting was ordered to be imprisoned for no more than 20 days. Does this seem fair to you guys? Now, Brian Steele, the defense attorney, he won't be facing any jail time, but it is odd that a judge favors one side of the court this much. You know what I'm saying? There's more to meet the eye here. Now, it really begs the question, is he working with the prosecution? Because he didn't even deny this meeting. All he wanted to know was who snitched on him. Now, this is the question that he repeatedly asked Attorney Steele multiple times, guys. I mean, even raising his voice because he wasn't getting a clear answer. Ashley Merchant, one of Donald Trump's attorneys in his Georgia election interference case, he argued that what the judge was asking for can only be connected to civil contempt. However, Judge Glanville, he felt as if Steele was denying him information that he needed. So he held him in criminal contempt. Now, you might think that this is all kind of made up, you know, and this is just like some fictitious fake story, some fake court, but it's all true, guys. This is literally happening in Fulton County, Georgia, which has now led to a filing from the defense attorney to have the judge removed from the case. Now, we're going to analyze that motion later, but here's what Judge Glanville decided in court.
And here's where The court finds that upon a review of Mr. Steele's motion and affidavit, as well as Mr. Banks' motion and affidavit, that both contain assertions bare assertions and legal conclusions which aren't sufficient for the court to grant your motion at this point in time and refer it to another judge for it to be heard. So I'm going to deny the motion at this point in time. I invite you all to look at Baptiste versus the state. Just because adverse rulings have been made doesn't mean that the court stops the trial. So I'm going to make that. I'll reduce both of the motions to recuse to an order, and I will file that so you can take whatever steps you need to necessarily after that. But I don't get into anything about the affidavit itself, argument on that. I just have to read it. Those are the only three things I do. And then if I find it to be not sufficient on its face, I go for it. I just make the ruling at that point in time.
He has to sit there and talk about it because he knows deep down that the people in Fulton County, they can see this. They're not falling for this mess. And it's only adding to the infamy of the DA's office that they tend to do whatever it is that they want with very little to no repercussions. I mean, the same goes for the judge because it's clearly that he's biased, but he's still on the case here. Now, many people suggest that this now opens the possibility for Steele and the defense team to raise this to the Georgia Supreme Court. But let's see what their motion actually had and if there's any kind of bias as to why they want Judge Glanville removed from the case, right? So Mr. Steele, together with the defense team, they want the judge removed due to alleged misconduct. Now, again, going back to the secret meeting that he had with Fani Willis's team and a key witness, not only that, but the defense team is also calling for a mistrial, especially as it's alleged that the prosecution was intimidating the said witness, all of which supposedly happened while the judge was present. And as the judge tried to get this information as to who leaked this conversation, he got nothing. Mr. Steele refused to answer the question, relying on State Bar Rule of Professional Conduct 1.6. So he went with how the law should be upheld. He followed the rules and he conducted himself in a manner that respects the Constitution, which is something that the critics have failed to see with this judge. Now, the defense didn't take the rejection to the judge lying down. They tried to make their case, Mr. Steele said that under the judge's suggestion, he read Baptiste versus State. In fact, he mentioned this as he made his case in court. He says that he read everything that he needed to read. Steele also recalled that the court, together with the prosecution team, they talked to a key witness, and that the court assisted with the discussion that the prosecution had with Kenneth Copeland, the witness in question, which then led to Mr. Steele adding the court as a witness to this trial. Now, he also added 2 prosecutors from Fani Willis's team because they were also inside the room when that conversation happened. So here's where things really became a lot more interesting, guys. Steele said that once he cross-examines Copeland, he would ask about the amount of pressure, if any, the court put on him. Because now, quick shout out and thank you to Freedom for the $10 super chat. Freedom says, our judicial system, Ron, judges and courts have become a disgrace to the real respect of truth and real justice. I used to have no issue to being a juror, never again. Also, quick shout out and thank you to Tom Jr. for the super chat. Sully G. We got Sully G in the house. Also, we got Keenan Ripon, Catalia. Thank you so much, all of you guys. I appreciate all of your support, all of the new members, all of the new subscribers to the channel. Our target, guys, our goal is to hit 600,000 subscribers. Keep subscribing, keep sharing these videos to get the truth out here, folks. He's the one who's instructing the jury. Analysts and experts alike agree that this is not very fair. We're not saying who's guilty or not at this point, but every citizen of this country should be afforded a fair trial, right? Now, I should tell you guys that while Steele was making his argument, the judge was literally blowing his nose. Unbelievable. The level of disrespect here. Now, I'm not really sure if he just doesn't care about the rule of law or he's just straight up disrespecting the defense team with this act, or what it is. But now, Judge Glanville, he seemed to try and compromise with the situation. He confirmed that he would grant the defense team access to the ex parte transcript. But of course, there's a catch. The defense team would only be provided with access to parts of the conversation that the court allows them to read. So why is that? So basically, he's not going to give them the entire transcript, something that the defense team has pushed against because they want the entire recording without anything being deleted or redacted. Because it would be completely naive to think that the court would allow the untouched conversation to be provided to the defense. And this is where the bias is super clear, guys, showing all of us that the judge is working for the prosecution's benefit. And you know what the judge said after Mr. Steele said this? He just said that the ruling is done and that's it. Judge Glanville basically threw his weight around. I know he's a big guy, but pardon the pun. Judge Glanville basically threw his weight around and said that the conversation is over, and if you want the entire ex parte script, file another motion. Now, after hearing all of this, do any of you guys have any doubts as to whether Judge Glanville is under the influence of Fani Willis and her prosecution team? Because I think it's pretty clear the way he's fighting to keep this conversation away from the defense team, because, you know, it could prove that they tried to intimidate a witness for all we know, which could theoretically ultimately lead to a mistrial. Not to mention the embarrassment of the judge and the district attorney's office if it's actually proven that they worked hand in hand. But what do y'all think should be done here? Should they be suspended, maybe even disbarred? Now, in relation to that, I did a previous video where I covered a very controversial speech from DA Fani Willis. She just can't help but to go against the grain with what she's been saying to the public. Make sure you guys check that video out. I'll leave a link for you guys in the description down below for that one. She gets absolutely destroyed by Fox News contributor Tyrus on national TV. But before I go, guys, I just want to tell you I really appreciate all of you, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Take care.